This is the School Success Podcast, a podcast for school leaders to learn from other school leaders what's working and what's not, and to get inspiration and encouragement, as well as strategies to grow school enrollment, connect with families, retain teachers, recruit teachers, and everything in between. You guys are heroes, and I cannot thank you enough for pouring into this next generation that's coming behind us. My goal is you will take at least one thing away from every episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Please enjoy the School Success Podcast.
Time for school.
Hey, School Success Makers. Welcome to another edition of the School Success Podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Slater. I'm joined by a great friend out of the great state of Arkansas, Susan Provenza, and she is the State Director of Founders Classical Academies, and that is owned by Responsive Ed of Arkansas. And so they're doing some awesome things in the state of Arkansas with education. We're going to dive into all of those today, but before we jump into all that, I always want to introduce our guests. So Susan, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's going to be fun. And I always start with the same question for every guest. And I say, if I was to go visit you in Arkansas, I know you're in Bentonville, Arkansas, what would you say? Mitchell, you got to eat this and do this. What are those things I got to do there in Arkansas?
So probably one of the most popular things to do in Northwest Arkansas is mountain bike. We are a huge mountain biking community. So if you're into that, great thing to do. But if you're not into that, there's still a lot of fun outdoors stuff to do. It's beautiful here. I know a lot of people don't always think of beauty when they think of Arkansas, but we're in a really pretty part of the state. So lots of fun things to do outside, amazing local restaurants. Our little downtown in Bentonville looks like it popped straight out of a Hallmark movie. It's fantastic. So absolutely come and have a good time. It's a great place to be.
Is Arkansas known for like a specific food? Like, you got like the, parts of North Carolina and part are like barbecue, vinegar-based barbecue, and Texas is their barbecue sauce barbecue. Is Arkansas have a thing? They're like, this is our thing. Like anything?
So it might surprise you. Cheese dip. So most places call it queso because, I lived in Texas before I lived in Arkansas. We called it queso there. We call it cheese dip in Arkansas, and we make good cheese dip.
I love cheese dip. So I'll put that one on the list. Is that just with chips? I mean, simple.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I didn't know if it was like, well, no, we don't do chips with our cheese dip. We use it.
Yeah, no, we do chips with our cheese dip.
Okay, so I'm going to go mountain biking and get some cheese dip to celebrate after I met my
cheese. There you go.
Okay, very good. Well, as we kind of jump in, I would love to hear a little bit about you and your background, how you got to where you are today in the education field, and then we'll kind of jump into the schools that you guys have and pretty much like what Responsive Ed Arkansas has, and then the school specifically. But let's kind of jump in like, how did Susan get to where she is today?
Okay. Well, I'm going to make a long story really short because I've been in education for probably almost 25 years.
Okay.
So, but I did not start out to be in education, and but then I found a passion for it, and I actually started substituting. That's how I got into education initially, and then I was a teacher for a long time. I taught literature. And then when our first campus here in Arkansas was opening in 2013, it was called Northwest Arkansas Classical Academy at the time, very long name. And it was opening in 2013, and I was kind of looking for a change. And I had a friend who suggested I take a look. And I really fit with the classical model and what we do. And so I joined Responsive Ed and Northwest Arkansas Classical Academy, now Founders. I was a teacher, and then an assistant headmaster, then a headmaster. Wow. And now I get to be the state director, and I oversee 3 of our brick and mortar campuses here in Arkansas.
Awesome. 3 of how many? Is it just 3? Is there more than 3?
There are only 3 in Arkansas. Yeah,
okay.
We have, I want to say maybe 17 or 18 in Texas. So it's a pretty big network.
Whoa. Okay. Mm-hmm. Very good. So for those that are listening, anytime I've had somebody on that is in the classical space, I always want them to kind of share what is classical education in a quick abbreviation or just story of what it is, because one, everybody I feel like has a good different outlook on what it is when they're sharing it. It's a little different every time I ask it, but also I know we'll have some guests that are like, oh, I'm not really completely sure what is classical education.
Sure. So classical education is just going back to the roots of what makes a really solid foundational education. It is the good, the true, and the beautiful. It is focusing on the liberal arts and sciences, and it is weaving virtue into everything that we do, so that we're not just educating the head, but also educating the heart. And so that's kind of the really short version of what classical education
I
is.
love it. I think the short version is good, because I feel like you get too into the weeds. You're like, wait, what are we talking about?
Yeah, you lose people. So you got to have a little concise definition.
Good. So you're over 3 schools in Arkansas, and I know we'll dive into. I don't know if you want to maybe as a whole talk about all 3, but I'd love to kind of just we'll dive into some of the questions for those schools. So as you guys have grown, and I know you've been there, sounds like over 10 years total with the organization. Obviously, you've seen, and you probably are firsthand over the summer right now, what are some of those challenges that you guys have as a school? I'm sure I have some in my mind of probably what ones you might be facing, but I'd love to hear from you
Yeah.
specifically. What are some of those challenges you guys are up against? But not just here are challenges, but are there certain ways you guys are combating those challenges right now?
Absolutely. So we actually have a pretty good problem to have, and that is that we have a huge interest in what we're doing. We have a lot of people in our community who want what we're offering. And so, particularly in Northwest Arkansas with our Bentonville campus and our Rogers campus, they're only about 3.5 miles apart. They're really close to each other. And our Rogers campus is only a couple of years old, and it opened because we had over 800 people on our Bentonville waiting list.
Whoa.
And yeah, it was just unbelievable. And we're sitting there, looking at it and saying, my gosh, this is a whole nother school, 800 kids. That's a complete school, a good size one too, by the way. And these are families who really want what we're doing, and we can't give it to them. So how are we going to do that? And so we grew pretty fast. And so I would say it's a good challenge, right? Because when you grow fast, it's all of a sudden you go from having four or 5 sections of something to having we had 7 sections of kindergarten at our Bentonville campus last year. That's a lot of 5-year-olds in one campus. And so it really it's been amazing to watch, but also, there have obviously been some hurdles with that. I think probably right now one of our challenges and it's also kind of got a positive spin to it, and that is that we have a lot of competition in Northwest Arkansas, particularly because there are a lot of charter schools that are coming into this area. And what's great about that is it keeps us on our toes, and it keeps us focused on who we are and what we do, so that we make sure that we are providing our families with what they signed up for, which is a classical education.
And you guys are a charter school, correct?
We are, which is kind of unusual for classical schools. I think most people are pretty accustomed to classical schools being private. But that's one of the things that I really love about our organization is that we want to be able to offer this amazing, rich, beautiful education to anybody, regardless of whether or not they can pay for it. And so we are public charter school.
Hey, school success makers, just a really quick break from the episode to highlight our amazing sponsors over at America's Christian Credit Union. They are celebrating 65 years of service this year, and they provide essential school banking services and a tuition financing program for schools looking to reduce their risk and administrative burden. And you guys can find out all about them on their website, americaschristiancu.com/schools. That's americaschristiancu.com/schools. They are amazing over there, and I always like to say, if you're a school that collects tuition and you have a hard time collecting all of tuition at the end of the year, maybe it comes around May, June, you're like, man, we only got collected 95 or 98% of what tuition was owed to our school. One of the things you can do is have your parents get a tuition financing loan through the credit union, and then they pay the credit union directly, and you get your funds up front at the beginning of the year as the school. So you don't have to chase people throughout the year, and you can focus on what you do best, and that is loving and educating your students. And it doesn't cost your school anything to do it. So check them out online, americaschristiancu.com/schools. All right, back to the show. That's huge. Is there a lot of classical, non-public classical schools in your area?
There are a few, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Has that been?
I wouldn't say a lot, but there are definitely a few.
Okay. Has that been a a sore spot for them at all? Have you talked to any of them? They're like, hey, you're making this really hard for us being a public school doing this. Because I'm sure the other ones are probably Christian classical schools,
Mhm.
like, has that been like hard to go in? I'm assuming, I don't know how to, even the way I'm asking that question, but obviously you have people around there. Public schools can propose a big challenge, both for just regular public schools that aren't charters, but then also the Christian schools. Has that been um, hard, especially if you guys have a voucher system? Maybe that's more so I should go with this. If there's like a voucher program for your state, to where, have you guys lost any kids because their parents like, wait, I want to go to this school now with my voucher to this Christian school or private school? That was a very
Sure.
weird long question that I don't even
It's
know what
okay. No, I got it. I think I got it
all
all,
right.
actually. I think I can answer everything
Okay.
in that
All right.
question. So vouchers are pretty new to the state of Arkansas. We do have them though. And there are a few of the schools that have, decided that they do want to take part in that and utilize the vouchers. So far, we have not seen a huge, decrease in our students that want to go there. And the other thing that's great about the classical schools that are in our area, none of us have beef with each other, which is great. And so we all tend to end up at the same conferences together because we're all still trying to perfect this, trying to grow and learn and get better at it every single day. And so we end up at a lot of the same professional development and talking with each other about, okay, well, how are you guys doing it? Or how are you guys doing it? The other great thing is that, if families are going to seek out a Christian education, they're going to seek that out regardless. And so we don't really have a huge competition with them at all whatsoever. And that makes it nice because we do play nice in the sandbox, and we do get to share some professional development and share ideas and really, just take advantage of the fact that we have a wealth of knowledge within, these network of schools that we can really take part in.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
with the, well, and you answered that beautifully. So good job.
Well,
So,
thank you.
um, so I know, some of the challenges I was thinking of in my head that I thought, oh man, I wonder if they're struggling with this one. It's very commonplace in the education field across the country, but staffing, has that been a challenge for you guys with, I mean, obviously multiple schools, but also
Right.
school is not just a regular school. So it needs specific training or specific people. Has that at all been a challenge for you guys? And if so, how have you kind of navigated that one?
Yeah, it's kind of varied over the years, and school year to school year, I would say that still varies. Um, I think every school in the nation took a hit coming out of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really rough for teachers. But here lately, we have had a lot of good luck, and it can be challenging in that there aren't always a lot of people who come from a classical background. They probably weren't educated classically, a lot of them. And if they went to what I call teacher school, so if they went to a university in order to be a teacher and got their teaching license, they didn't really get any classical pedagogy. I'm not gonna, they didn't get any. Not they really didn't get any. They didn't get any. And so it's a little bit of reteaching there, but what we strive to do is find people who have the heart for it, um, who want to live a good and virtuous life and want to pass that on to students. And if we can find people like that, then we can train them up in what that looks like in the classroom. And so that's really kind of been our goal. And we've done a great job of it the past few years. We've had very little turnover, which is amazing and wonderful because it's hard to retrain people. And so we like it when we keep them. And we have done a good job of that over the past couple of years.
So I love that outlook that you had for, hey, we can teach them. Like if we, because
Mm-hmm.
that reminded me of when, so years ago, I was a youth pastor at a church. And I remember I went on this, joined this church. I don't have a college degree I don't have a college degree in anything, but specifically nothing in Christian ministry or anything like that. And I was on a mission trip to Mexico with our church, and I took a group of students down there, and my pastor was talking to another pastor that was of another church from another state. And they were like, wow, like Mitchell looks great. Looks like he's a really good find. How did you find him? And he goes, did he come out of like a good college or something? And he goes, no, Mitchell actually has no college degree at ever. And my pastor's telling me this later of like, he was asking about it. He goes, well, we've been looking for a youth pastor for our church, but our minimum is they have to have a master's degree to be able to come work as a youth pastor. And my pastor's like, yeah, he goes, I wouldn't do that because your pool is so small. He goes,
Yeah,
I know we hired Mitchell because we love his heart. We love that he loves students and he can connect with students really good. He goes, we can teach the other stuff later. And Mitchell's willing to learn that stuff later. And so he's like,
that's
that's why
right.
we jumped on him. And I loved that like my church took a gamble pretty much, I guess you could say on me, like, no degree, but man, he really, I can tell he loves student ministry.
Mhm.
And I see that for teachers, and maybe that's something if other schools are listening going, man, maybe we find this person who just loves students and loves to be able to teach and educate them, but they just need some of the other teaching later. Well, we can send them to a certificate program or to a
Mhm.
university online and learn some of these other things foundationally that they need to have. Because I feel like if you're so like, well, I need a teacher at my classical school or my public school that has a master's in this to, man, your pool is just so small, especially if you're
You're
not able
just
to pay.
limiting yourself, right?
Yes.
And you could be missing out on somebody who would be really great, and who would just do an amazing job in your campus. And that is something that's nice about our schools is we do have the waiver from licensure. So even though we're a public school, all of our teachers don't have to be licensed. They can be, but they don't have to be. And so that really does free us up to look for people who are a good fit for mission and vision,
Yeah,
right? And then if you're a fit for mission and vision, we can teach you the other stuff.
that's good. Has that ever come back to bite you guys in terms of like parents coming in going, wait, if they found that out? Because I actually never heard that or knew that, where parents like,
Yeah.
wait, so some of these teachers could not be licensed, and you're like, oh no, that they all are, or they're all have a degree in it. But has that ever been an issue where a parent is has asked that and been concerned
I
that
don't think so because you know parents usually are going to question behaviors of teachers, right? They're going to question like their classroom behaviors or whatever. All of our teachers have been to school. They just don't necessarily all have an education degree. And they may have a degree in something else. They may have a degree in science, or they may have a degree in math, or whatever. And that's great and awesome and fabulous. But I think I think if you're hiring quality people, you're going to minimize any of that kind of pushback from your parents. The flip side is, I think in charter schools, a lot of parents are like, we're actually okay with them not being licensed, because maybe some of the bad habits didn't rub off on them, and
that's true.
so they're actually okay with it.
Okay, very good. Well, with this challenge part, any other challenges to mention before I jump onto another question for you?
No, I don't think so. We're trying to rock and roll.
This is great. Well, now you kind of get the chance to brag a little bit about the school. I want to hear what's going really, really good. What are things maybe that you guys put in place early because you saw maybe something going a specific way in the industry, and you're like, oh, let's do this, and it's just leaps and bounds. It's doing great for the school. Anything cool wins to share? Success makers, just a really quick break to highlight one of our amazing sponsors, and that is ClassReach. Now, ClassReach supports schools of all sizes from application to graduation. Take charge of your school with ease, power, and mobility using ClassReach, the school management software administrators and teachers love using. You can get your free demo at classreach.com. That's classreach.com. They are amazing people, and they provide this amazing SIS software for you to keep track of your students' grades, communicating with families that are enrolled, and a whole bunch more. So again, check it all out on their website, classreach.com. They are awesome. All right, now back to the show.
Oh, probably a lot. I could brag on our schools for a really long time. I think one of the things to brag on is that um, our headmasters at our campuses create such amazing school cultures, with the help, obviously, of the staff and the parents and the kids. But they're all in it together to have an amazing school culture, and that'll turn around just about anything in a school. If kids feel good going there, if parents feel good when they walk in the door, if your teachers are happy to be there, if you can create that in a school, you're gonna do good things. So I think that's been one of the big wins that I've seen, especially lately. Like I said, coming off the heels of COVID, everybody was down in the dumps. Everybody was just beat down, right, as a society. And so for our people to come in and to create um, these beautiful environments where people want to be, people want to work, and people want to stay, I think has been amazing. Our students are pretty phenomenal. as well. I will brag on them quite a lot in terms of both their academic and their service achievements. We put a lot of emphasis on both, obviously, because we do care so much about virtue, but academically phenomenal. They blow the doors off of testing, of competitions that they enter. You name it, they're doing amazing, great things, and that's really good to see. And then also to see them take part in things around the community, invest their time in the school. We had some tornadoes come through here in late May. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, our campuses were not hit hard, just kind of knocked over some trees. But we've had students out helping with cleanup and helping come and remove get the trees off the fences and take care of things like that. And they're happy to do it. They're excited to do it and they enjoy it. And so I think when you can instill that in your students as well, that is definitely something to brag on.
That's awesome. With your, when you're talking about the head of schools and the culture, do you guys this would be a good one, maybe talking to for a little bit. So I have a school I work with, that's a charter school, and they're part of a big network of charter schools. And so their setup is the head of school, principal, whoever of that campus has a lot of control or like sway over his specific campus. And mm-hmm. I've seen it played out different ways across different networks of charter schools where they have very, very strict rules. All the campuses have to follow. But then this one specifically, they give a lot of like freedom to the principal to say, hey, you know your culture, you know your city better. Like you kind of do what you feel is best. Do you guys do that as well for each of your campuses? And if so, like how much freedom do you give your head of school to switch up culture, or is it coming from the top down to push out culture?
Sure. So that's actually a really good question. And it's kind of a mix for us. So because we are a founders brand, we want all of our founders campuses to look like a founders, right? That's what we say. When you walk into a founders campus, you want to know you're in a founders campus. However, within that, our heads of school, our headmasters, they do have quite a bit of freedom to make it do that, to make it look like a founders. So for example, we say founders wide, our students are going to wear uniforms, but the headmasters, they get a say as to what do those look like? Do we have formal uniform days or not? Do we, what kind of uniforms do we have? Like, do all the upper school kids wear blazers every single day? Do they only wear them on formal uniform day? Whatever. So that we leave up to the headmasters so they can kind of gauge it based on their parents, their families, their kids, and what that culture looks like. Mission and vision, all going to be the same, right? Big stuff going to be the same, but some of those smaller things where we really want them to connect with their communities, they've got say over. And that's what's fun about our schools in Arkansas, because each one of them looks completely different when you go in there. You know you're in a founders. You walk in and your students are polite and orderly, and they're in their uniforms, and they all say the same honor code in the mornings, and they've got the same curriculum, they're doing the same kinds of things, but every campus has a different makeup and it looks a little bit different, and that's great.
I do. Okay, I love that. So is he in charge then of, or he or she of the school in charge of all his hiring and all of that stuff, or does that go up higher for who? Like he gets to pick he gets to pick how much they get paid because he has a budget that can he pick based on his budget? Like I want to do this with the budget. Is that also in their control?
So pretty much they work with me on that piece. So on the budget piece, right? That is definitely one of the things where I oversee that because in Arkansas, all three of our schools are within the same charter. So it kind of functions as a district. So I'm the mom making sure all three kids have what they need, right? So if this kid over here needs braces, I got to make sure this one gets them later if they need them, right? So I have to keep an eye on the budget for the three schools. But there are some areas of the budget where the headmasters do have a little bit more flexibility. And that really comes into play with kind of those extra things that they want to do. They do fundraisers and things like that to assist with some of the extra things. In terms of pay, it's pretty standard in the state of Arkansas because we try to follow the state rules for minimum pay. And then there's not a ton of flexibility there on how much they want to pay somebody. If they've got something that they really want to do with somebody where they would want to pay them a significant amount more, they just come talk to me and we see if we can figure out a way to work it out.
Okay. So I love you brought up fundraising. That was going to be one of my last ones I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
Is there any fundraisers that you guys do as founders or as each campus that have been really successful that you guys would love to share? Because I know that is a hot topic. I feel like for most schools I talk to, they're like, well, we did this one, we did a lot of work and it made $5,000, or we did this one and made $30,000. So is there anything that in the fundraising world that you guys have had a lot of success in, or any also flops that you're like, we won't do that fundraiser again?
Sure. I think with any fundraiser, it's just so important to have your stakeholders invested in it, right? So if it's going to be a flop, we've had a few flops, and it's because it just either wasn't organized well or people didn't know about it the way they should. But for the most part, our campuses have figured out what works, and they've got the parents excited about it and the kids excited about it. One of our best ones is at our Bentonville campus. And part of it is because it's been going on for so long. But the other part of it is just because of how excited the students get. And they're very competitive. And every fall they do a turkey trot, which is simple. You just run around the building, like you run laps around the building, right? And you get people to donate. And we use an online company that helps us get our donations so the parents can easily share it on like their social media and all those kinds of things. So if they've got grandparents in Alaska, the grandparents in Alaska can donate online, right? It's fabulous. And the kids are just, they get so excited about it. I want to say we raised $70,000 to $80,000 last year on that fundraiser alone. I mean, just knocked it out of the park, just crazy. But they get so competitive. I think that's a piece of it. And, they've got good incentives for, different things. Class that reaches 100% of their goal gets a certain thing and all that. And I think the other piece of it is it's just become such a tradition at that campus. Like turkey trot always happens in the fall. That's just what they do. And so I think that's also where maybe some of the competitiveness comes in, because like we got to beat what we did last year, we got to do better than that. So every year they do a little bit better. It's pretty fantastic.
Good. I love competition very, very much. So,
yep, it's good for them.
I was homeschooled my whole life, so didn't really have too much of that, except when I played football for the local school. I had some fundraiser stuff, but yeah, I love competition.
Builds character.
So as we wrap up, I'd love to end with kind of like one final question for you. It could be, I have multiple answers, I guess, if you want to, but if you had a piece of advice for the other school leaders listening, it could be anything, but if you were like, share one, what would that piece of advice be?
I think that piece of advice would be, if you are a school leader, you have to have other leaders in your building supporting you, right? You've got to build your leadership capacity in your school or you're going to wear yourself out. I've seen it done. I've done it myself, worn myself out, trying to be the little red hen that does everything by herself. And just because somebody doesn't have a certain title doesn't mean that they can't lead. And you probably have people in your building who are dying to help in some way, shape, or form. They really want to see the school succeed, and they want to help make it better. So trust them, work with them, coach them up in terms of leading them and getting them to a place of leadership. And let them help you make your school great. Don't try to do it all by yourself, because you can't. You just can't.
That's good. Good.
Yeah.
We needed the community around us. We need our posse. What is our peeps behind? I'm making it work, but we need those people behind us and beside us. So that's good.
That's all right.
Cool. Susan, thank you for taking time out of your summer. As we record this, it's still in the summer break. I know you guys are busy throughout the summer, so I just appreciate you finding time and taking the time to hop on and share some insight and some feedback and everything to these other school leaders that are going to be listening to this episode and learning from it. So I very much appreciate it. I appreciate your friendship as well. Looking forward to seeing you at the next conference that we go to together.
Absolutely.
But just thank you for taking time out of your day to do this.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, another huge shout out and a thank you to Susan for taking time and being on the podcast today. I loved our conversation, and I love what she's doing for the schools there that she works with in Arkansas. Wishing them nothing but the best as they continue to grow, start new schools, and educate the generation that's coming behind us. So thanks again, Susan. And I'm hoping, as always, those who are listening to the podcast today, you were able to take at least one thing away from today's episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. And if your school needs help in a lot of different areas, well, we are here to help. So we have 3 free resources for you to help your school. The first one is the one you're listening to right now, the School Success Podcast, with episodes dropping every week. Make sure you're tuning in and growing and learning from the episodes and the people that we have on that are here to help you. The second one is our newsletter on our website, 𝑠choolsuccessmakers.com. In the top right-hand corner, you can sign up for the School Success Report. Make sure you're getting that every week to get there's teacher highlights, there's articles our team has written. It's a really cool newsletter, so make sure you're checking it out, 𝑠choolsuccessmakers.com. And then our free community on Facebook called School Success Makers. If you're not yet in it, we'd love you to be in there. I'm personally in there. Would love to see you in there as well. We also have some great services that are here to help your school be more successful. And one of those is the School Success Report Card. You guys can sign up for that. It's a one-time fee where we go over how your school is doing online in terms of your marketing. We give you a detailed report showing you, hey, here's some things you could do to improve to make your school grow and be more successful. You can sign up for that on our website. Let us know if you want to do one of those. We also have Campus Max. Campus Max is a way to see all the different ways your school is missing out on potential revenue growth. You can sign up for that on our website as well. We'll show you all the different areas that you could be making more money that you're missing out on as a school. And the last one that people have absolutely loved, and we have all the schools signed back up for it this fall who are doing it, is SMT, stands for School Marketing Team. It is where I teach your students, a group of students at your school, how to do marketing for your school. So it's your own internal marketing team, but it's coached and taught by myself and my team. If your school wants to be a part of it for our upcoming school year of the 2024-2025 year, we'd love to hear from you and get you signed up and join the other schools that are already a part of it and excited for this coming year. All right. Well, guys, it's been awesome. We'll be back here with another amazing guest as usual on the School Success Podcast. We'll see you then.